And yes, we are now currently very, very live on Facebook and YouTube. We are going to be having a very candid discussion, even as people trickle in and watch us discuss these issues. We have a very vibrant panel with us today, and we want to have a very engaging discussion, and want you to comment, to like, to share the link in preparation for getting all the feedback that you're going to give us and building the discussion to a place where we can have a reasonable discourse on the issues that we're going to be discussing. So very quickly, I want us to introduce ourselves. I will start by Martha. Martha, please introduce us. Hi.
Good morning, all.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
As you said, my name is Martha. Thank you. I'm new at this, so you'll bear with me.
Okay.
Yeah.
My name is Martha Okumu. I'm the Executive Director at Peace Tree Network, and I'd like to invite and welcome all of you to our 3-day online discussion on COVID-19, specifically targeting gender-based violence in Kenya today, because we know what's been going on, being locked up in the houses, not being able to go out and socialize with our friends. It's become a little hectic. That's why we felt it would be very good to have this discussion. This is part of our advocacy program, and it's part of the Inside Out project. I think most of you know, or you have a sense of what Inside Out project is based on the concept note that Rachel sent you. So this is our third activity under that. And we've been partnering with different organizations as well as artists. So I'd like to take this time to welcome you to a robust engagement, and to especially thank Rachel. I know she's not here. I don't know where she's hiding. She's been very instrumental in having us in this roundtable discussion, if I may call it that. Forward to hearing what you are going to share. And once again, welcome. And thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Robin?
Yes. Let's go on to Phil Otieno.
Oh, wow. Thank you so much, Robin, for this opportunity. Like you've heard, my name is Phil Otieno. I work for an organization known as Advocates for Social Change Kenya. Formerly, we used to be known as Men for Gender Equality now. And our main area of focus is really to engage with men and boys on issues of gender justice and overall social justice, and actually to ensure that we engage with them so that we prevent, protect, and respond to issues of sexual and gender-based violence in diverse communities across Kenya. And we've been fortunate enough to work across the region of Africa and beyond. Thank you.
Okay, awesome. And then we have Sarah.
Thank you, Robin. My name is Sarah Thega. I represent Dada Power Initiative, the Secretary General. Dada Power is a local grassroots feministic organization in Murang'a. So we work towards empowering girls, adolescent girls and young women in Murang'a. We encourage them and empower and advocate for them to represent women in governance and civic spaces. We encourage women to become more familiar with their sexual and reproductive health and also their rights, and also mentor and encourage girls and young women in schools and learning institutions. I'm passionate about women and women's rights. I'm a women's rights crusader, and I'm happy to be part of today's discussion. Thank you so much, Robin.
Awesome, nice. Onyango Otieno has just joined us. Onyango Otieno, kindly introduce yourself so that everybody gets to know who you are.
Hi, peoples. How you doing? Good morning, everyone. Sorry for being a little late. This morning life is quite hard for me. But my name is Onyango Otieno, or Rick's Poet. I'm a writer. I'm a poet. I'm a mental health advocate. I am also a gender activist and a podcaster. I really like talking about African masculinity and challenging the perceptions of masculinity that we have globally and continentally. So yeah, that's me.
Great, awesome. And then we have my co-moderator. Her name is Atieno, but I will let her. Let's hear her voice also.
Hello, hi everyone. My name is Atieno Otieno. Just for purposes of rhyming with the rest of the people. I am a lawyer. I am an artist. I also am a founder of an organization called Refugee Poet, which is an artistic space that uses art to tell refugee stories of trials and triumph. And today I'm here together with Robin to just facilitate this conversation, and hopefully we'll have an amazing time. So I'm really happy to be here.
Awesome, great. So in the interest of time and also catering for a few eventualities that may take place during this discussion, I just want to let everybody know that we have two more people who will be joining us. They are having a few technical hitches, but those are being sorted out on the back end. So if you see two more faces here and then I ask them to introduce themselves, don't feel like you have lost the trail of the discussion moving forward. So I think we will just go straight into our subject matter, and I'd like to ask our panel. They've already introduced themselves to us. They've told us their name. They've told us a few of the activities. Ultimately, as the conversation goes on, we will have them talk more and more about a few of the projects that they have during this time that they would like all of you to know about. But right now, I want to ask, what is the connection between your current job and your personal life experience in line with the conversation we're having today? Yeah, so I would like to start with Onyango Otieno.
Hey, and the last shall be first. Ha.
It has been written.
Hey, it was said, my friend. So, I am doing a lot of things, but for the purpose of this conversation, I wouldn't even say I have a job, but maybe the course I'm taking for this season. With the rising cases of gender-based violence during COVID-19, I started a podcast called Afro Masculinity Podcast. If you can read, and basically, the majority of perpetrators for GBV are men, and men, they like act out their violence mostly on other men, on children, and on women. And it just I've been planning to start this thing. The rising cases during COVID just proliferated my desire to start it off, to sort of get in-depth analysis of why men resort to violence when they are pressured, or when they don't know what to do with themselves, or when there's so much going on within them that they don't know how to act out. And for the most parts, when we talk about gender-based violence, we do not go in depth into the life of men and what makes men who they are. So that curiosity has led me to research a lot and to be honest with you, there is very minimal information about African masculinity out there, and the complex realities surrounding what an African become today, in regards to the history of this continent, in regards to colonialism, in regards to religion, in regards to social structures, political structures, all that, all those things. So my work basically is getting in-depth analysis into what might have happened before that disrupted our systems, that we are witnessing so much violence today, and how is that tied to mental health as well. So I have learned a lot in that quest, and for those of you who don't know the link of my podcast, it's soundcloud.com/Afromasculinity podcast. So I'm just so much more interested in the life of men, also because I grew up in a violent home, and I don't like violence at all. So when I see all these cases, nearly every day we wake up today, you hear a man raped somebody somewhere. Even as soon as yesterday, there's just always a story. And so if we do not get to the root of the problem, we'll never get to know what the solutions may look like. Where did Robin go?
He disappeared off the screen, apparently.
Robin disappeared.
Robin, come back here.
But
There he is.
I am here.
Ama nimemshtua jamii.
Umetoa mazito mengi sana. Yeah. So the same question. I told you we will be having a few people coming in, and mnaona kuna mwenzetu anaitwa Feni Awiti ameingia. I want Feni to introduce herself before we can go to the next person answering the same question. So Feni, we were just doing an introduction. Basically, you just tell us who you are and what you do. Yeah, so kazi kwako Feni.
Okay. First of all, I'm sorry I'm late. I think I'm late with 5 minutes. I'm so sorry. Well, my name is Feni Awiti, and I am a HIV activist. I live in the experience because I am HIV positive. I've been positive for 8 years. So my main balance in this society is to advocate for the rights and privileges of people living with HIV. And in connection to gender-based violence, I have lived experience from my past marriage. So I'm happy to join you guys and hear from you. And I'm so happy that men are here. There's gender equality. So I can't wait to, share and your experiences and get to see on the way forward about this.
Awesome.
Asante.
Great. Thank you so much, Feni. So that you are up to speed, the question that Onyango Otieno was answering was, what's the connection between your current job and your personal life experience in line with the conversation we're having? So that like we come back to you, I'd like to have Sarah. Sarah, what is the connection between the work you're doing now and your personal life experiences?
So, being a women's rights crusader, I'm always very keen on what affects women in all social tenets, in political tenets, economic tenets, And you've seen currently there's been a rise in femicide cases in Kenya. And I took an interest in it, wanting to really understand what is the issue, the underlying problem, and how we can solve this. Because when we look to countries like Brazil, Mexico, we have almost 10 women dying per day. Like in UNODC, has a data that we have 87,000 women dying per year, and 50,000 of those women dying per year is through the hands of their partners, people we trust, people we love. So it got me to thinking, why are we having 137 women dying daily in this world? And Kenya has become, it's become so fast in Kenya that it's picking up. So I decided to do a research, and that's what I'm working on right now. I'm working on to understand what the issues are behind femicide. Why are men killing women? And most of the scenes we see today from femicide scenes, they're very crass, they're very gross. You see, that crime has been committed through a lot of pain. And this is what I want to find out so that we can be able to solve this menace before it becomes, I mean, a huge mountain that we cannot come back from. So yeah, that's why I'm where I am at now.
Okay, awesome. That's profound. Next we have Phil Otieno. Phil Otieno, tell us, what is the connection between your personal life experience and the very good work all of us are doing, especially yourself?
Once again, thank you so much, Robin, for this opportunity. And very quickly, I would like to just state that first and foremost, I grew up in a resource constraint setting, to put it in mild language, but from a slum area, so to speak. And issues of sexual and gender-based violence, that was commonplace. And closer home, I have a sister, one sister and 4 brothers. And at one point in time, my sister was in college. And can you hear me? Somebody just called me. And at that point in time, when my sister was in college, my dad decided that she was not supposed to be having so much education and therefore was supposed to be married off. And he decided that, okay, now this point in time, you need to get married. And me and my mom at the time, we refused, and we said, no, she need to finish her college so that later on in life, she can be independent and not to depend on, majorly to depend on or rely on a man to be able to meet her daily needs and going forward to realize her full potential. That was never to be, and actually my sister got married. And at that point in time, my relationship with my dad went south together, and it's also the same time that my dad and mom got separated. And for 13 years before they all departed the earth, they were never together. So I saw a lot of these issues of violence happening. And aside from that, I also studied sociology and gender development, which also made me to be part and parcel of the work that I'm doing right now. And over the years, I've seen a lot of things happening. Before I even became the executive director for ADSOC, I remember I was a rapid responder. Rapid response meaning that you are the first line and port of call when something happened in different communities around Kenya. And one of the things that, of all the cases that I ever responded to, there's this one particular one that happened in Githurai when we were having an outreach activity. A 4-year-old girl had been defiled by a neighbor. And this young girl, as we were doing the outreach activity in one of the, very close to the market, one lady just came running and said, oh, so you guys are talking about violence, and here you are telling us all these things, and there's a young girl lying in a pool of blood just across the road. So we had to, a few of us had to stop doing what we were doing and go see what was happening, only to get there and find this young girl indeed lying in a pool of blood, having been defiled. So we were able to take the girl to Nairobi Women's Hospital, and she was attended to. That was so many years back. But as we speak, this girl will never have a child because her uterus was ruptured at that tender age. So there's so many things that connect me to the job that I'm doing at the personal level, but also professionally in terms of what I studied. And I think this is now my 19th year in the work that I'm doing, and I've been able to move across the globe. I don't think I've been fortunate enough to like be in all the continents of the world, just seeing what's happening. And even more so, our African continent, we have very horrific things that are happening, particularly to women. But like Otieno Nyango said, that majority of these cases, the main perpetrators of this violence are men, either to fellow men, to children, to women, and all that. But also, we must also realize that men are also being violated. But then again, not only by fellow men, but also by women. And these are some of the things that we need to talk about. And I know there's always been discussions around how we can get to the point where we talk about violence against men. And I know it's a discussion that we may have going forward. But by and large, my interaction and engagement in the work that I do is based on the personal things that I saw happening in my surrounding as I was growing up, but also professionally, having interacted and met, seen, and engaged with people who have been violated, and also perpetrators. I've also engaged and worked with perpetrators because we've had some work in Naivasha prison, Manyani, and also Shimolatewa. So that's what I've been doing. Yeah, thank you. Can you still hear me, Robin?
Yeah, okay, awesome, nice. Before we get to Feni, I want to introduce a lady called Jazia. Jazia, can you speak?
Hi, yeah, can you guys hear me?
Hi, great. Hi, Jazia.
Hi.
So
Sorry, I had a
I
network trouble getting on.
yeah, your background is a bit noisy.
Yeah.
But we would like you to introduce yourself first so that everybody gets to know who you are.
Okay. My name is Jazia.
Yes,
I am a poet, generally creative content creator, a writer, and a law student from just graduate this year.
Okay.
And Rachel actually trusted me to work on this project because she knows that I deal with topics around gender inequality. So yeah, that's why I'm here. I know if there's anything else to add.
We could pick up most of what you were saying, but I think probably with time you'd probably need to like shift from where you're at. That's going to be possible.
Sadly, it's not.
Sadly, it's not. Okay. We will do a round and then get back. So thank you for joining in. The discussion is already 23 minutes in. We've gotten to know what everybody else does. And now we were answering a question and we were on Feni Awiti's turn. Feni, please tell us your work. What's the relation between your personal experience and the work that you're doing now?
So I am a non-binary individual. Can everyone hear me? Yeah? Okay. Yeah, so I'm a non-binary individual, and what that means is I identify neither as male or female. I just exist as a person. But I've grown up being raised predominantly as a woman because I come from a very conservative Muslim household. So the concept of being queer and not cis is a very unheard of experience. So I found that because I look like a woman, because I need to behave like a woman, I've experienced certain stereotypes and violences that are predominantly faced by women. And growing up not feeling as a woman, that was a very interesting experience for me because in a way it was this like dysmorphia that I was feeling, that it doesn't matter what I come across as, or what I tell the world I am, or even just generally my beliefs. Because if the world is saying that we're going to do X, Y, Z to you, then X, Y, Z will be done to you. And it's been enlightening to say the least, especially within the poetry community. We found that in Kenya there aren't a lot of spaces, safe spaces for people who identify as non-binary artists and as female artists, because the space isn't safe. It's your find yourself either being ridiculed or not getting the same opportunities. And in some cases, I know women who have been assaulted by men in order to, like the male poets feeling like these female poets owe them something as a result of them getting those opportunities. So something that myself and a group of non-binary individuals and women have come up with, we've created a platform called Kaza Sauti, and it's a safe space for queer artists and for female identifying artists to come and talk about what they want to talk about, topics of discussion they want to talk about, and not feel any pressure by men or society or their audiences. And that's something that we're really trying to push more into other spaces, not just the poetry space. Like we want to get into publishing. We want to get eventually into like panel discussions and whatnot, and not just within East Africa, but move that towards the rest of the world. So right now we are working with poets from West Africa, from East Africa, and from the United States. So yeah, that's just a bit of what I do from the creative aspect. I hope I didn't get cut out.
No, you didn't get cut off, but we could hear a good number of what you were saying, but there was still a few issues. But thank you for the good work you're doing. Feni, can you hear me? Hello. Hello. Okay. Okay. I'm not sure if I'm the one with an issue, but
I see Fanny is having trouble connecting to us and hearing
Fanny is
us.
having trouble. Okay.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. So let's we've in our talks, somebody mentioned work, marriage. Technically, that's the sphere that a great deal of the issues we want to discuss are going to be centered around. Let's talk marriage. When we talk about the question of rape, I feel like society today assumes that rape is something that happens to a woman who is walking in dark alley, and then people just scram all over her, and then they do, they take advantage of her. But rape exists in a wider tapestry of issues, and it has been said that there's rape in marriage. I want to pick your minds on marital rape. What are your thoughts on marital rape, Sarah?
Thank you for the question, Robin. Marital rape is here with us, and unfortunately or sadly, a lot of people do not understand that it happens. There are women who go through marital rape, yet they don't understand that this is rape. But what you need to understand is that in every time we have sex, there has to be consent. So when you say no to sex and your husband goes ahead and has sex with you, that is rape. So you find that sometimes people don't have access to information, and that's why they do not understand that that was marital rape. But when you go and report, for example, at gender offices, police gender desks. Whereas most of the times it's deeply entrenched by patriarchal police officers. You know, watasema patia mzee haki yake, you know, and that day you are not in a mood. Maybe you are PMSing, or maybe you know, whatever reason you had not to have rape, sorry, whatever reason you had not to have sex, it's very valid. So but I'm glad that today we are starting to have those conversations, and people are starting to understand that if I say no to sex, especially in marriage, that whatever, if my husband continues or goes ahead to have sex with me, that is rape. And I hope women are able to talk to their husbands about this, that when I say no, please just accept that today I'm not in no mood, and when I'm in a mood, I'm going to give you some loving, you know. Yeah.
Does anybody interesting thoughts and great insights on the question of marital rape? Does anybody else in the panel have something they can add? Feni, I don't know if Feni is with us now. Feni, can you hear us? Hello, Feni. Okay. There seems to be an issue there.
Okay. Can I take
Phil,
it up?
do you have anything you can add? Yes, please.
Yeah, I can pick it up. Thank you so much, Sarah, for your insights on this, and especially on the aspect of consent, because I think even when we want to talk about issues of rape, our first port of call should be the definition of rape. And I don't want to mansplain, but the fact that there's no consent, if it's an unconsensual sex, whether in marriage or outside marriage, then it is rape. It's because it's the violation of that other person's space. And most of the time, when we see issues of rape in marriage, especially, it is because of the power dynamics, the power relations that exist between men and women. And most of the time, you will realize that men still hold the power and key making decisions, even at the household level. And therefore, and there's also what I will call social acceptance of violence in our society. And that's why when you are posing the question, you highlighted issues to do with somebody. When somebody is raped, we'll first start by asking, where were you? What kind of dress were you wearing? At what time did it happen? What were you doing there? And so many other questions. But when it comes to a man, and the men, and Sarah said, if you go to a police station to report this, they'll tell you, patia baba haki yake and stuff like that. So the thing we are talking about here is issues of power. And let me put it into context. When we talk about any form of sexual violence or form of sexual and gender-based violence, the root causes are three: gender inequality, power imbalance, and disrespect for human rights. So if I pick power imbalance, for instance, if today a man came from work or wherever they come from and they say, I'm tired, I don't feel like having sex and all that, it will go and they will not have it. And if it was a woman, then they will be told, so who are you with, what are you doing, and why are you denying me my rights and all that. And all these are also anchored in our cultural tendencies or engagements, and also religion. Because for instance, those of you who are Christian, if you read the book of 1 Corinthians chapter 4, verse 1 to 7, chapter 7, verse 1 to 4, there's a portion there that says, from verse 1 to 4, it says, a woman, your body is not your body, but for your husband. And the husband, your body is not your body, but for your wife. And therefore, do not deny each other. The part that men will want to concentrate on most is that part of do not deny each other. So if you are denied, they say, even the Bible says, do not deny me. And that becomes a bone of contention. Again, if you look at all our cultural issues, every other time, there's no time when a man asks for sex, for instance, then they should be given by the woman, and the woman should just give in without even caring, with no care at all. And it's no wonder when we were formulating the Sexual Offences Act, one of the clauses that was deleted was removed and did not see the light of day was the clause on marital rape. Simply because, and I remember, and I can mention names, at that point in time, the MP for Ndiwa, Paddy Ahenda, said, I paid dowry. This woman is coming to my home. The house is mine. The bed is mine. The bed sheet. And he mentioned so many things, and he kept on and on and on. And all those members of parliament, and you know our parliament is male dominated. They were laughing and they were, you know, they threw out that clause. So what I'm saying here is that whenever rape happens in marriage, it's so sad that you cannot even dare to start saying how it happened, because one, our law does not recognize that, but we can also say that within the constitution, there's a loophole that we can use to even prosecute those laws. And we must also remember that Article 2 of our Kenyan Constitution, Part 6, says very clearly that any law that we become a signatory to shall become part of our law. So in the absence of marital rape in our legal frameworks and policies, then we can actually use other international instruments that we have to prosecute such kind of laws. And therefore, this should not be a barrier, as it were. And I pity and I am so sad because I never want to look at violence from a relational perspective where I should not be violent simply because this is my sister, this is my mother, this is my friend and all that. But we need to look at violence from a perspective of a human rights violation and it being a crime meted on a human being, as opposed to those relational things that people want to point out. Mtoto wangu, ama sistangu, mama yangu na vitu kama hivyo. So until we get there, then we can start talking about how to prevent, protect, and respond to issues of violence against women, and even more so rape. And please, let's also remember, Article 27 of our Kenyan Constitution talks of non-discrimination. It's one of those very forward-looking kind of clauses that we have. And Part 4 and 5 of that article actually talks of nobody should be violated based on their sex, race, tribe, ethnicity, including mode of dressing. So issues of dressing should never even come into question. I wonder how many people are even raped in swimming pools, for instance. Yeah, and that's where people are, if you say, quote unquote, scantily dressed, based on how you perceive it. Thank you, Robin.
Great. Why that's heavy. I want to bring in Femi. Feni was going to give us an account of her personal experience based on on domestic violence, but she seems to be having a lot of issues with the connectivity. But that notwithstanding, I'd like us to go a bit into the definitions, because we've had a number of things being thrown around. So I'd like us to have a few definitions handled. So there's the definition of the word domestic violence, there's the definition of the word intimate partner abuse, and we've also had the word femicide. So domestic violence. I'd like to pose this question to Onyango Otieno. What is domestic violence?
Wow. I think somebody like Sarah or Phil will be the best person to give those definitions. I am more of a storyteller when it comes to these things. But essentially, from the word domestic just pertains to things that happen in the home, things pertaining to the home. And this is violence that is meted upon the people, upon or against the people who exist in a home. And this could be the child, this could be the father or the mother or any other human being that exists in the house. I do not know if violence against animals live in the home is part of domestic violence. Sarah would tell me. I've never heard of that conversation before, but I think, if we can call them domestic animals, why can't we? Why are they never added on to this conversation on violence? We just talk about it when it's people, which I think could be a developing conversation, but that's the best shot I could give it on this Tuesday morning.
Okay. Sarah, do you want to add anything to that definition?
Yes, Onyango, it's what you've just said. And this is violence meted on any human being within a homestead. We can say it's not only physical. People just think that domestic violence is just physical, but it's also verbal, it's also emotional violence, because some people think that, oh, since my partner or my husband or my wife does not beat me, I'm not subjected to any kind of domestic violence, but it's untrue. You can go through domestic violence through when it's emotional abuse, if it's verbal abuse, sometimes kuna mtu anaweza kwambia mi afadhali unichape kuliko kunitukana, because in each other kind of form there's the heaviness it gives you. But all these kinds of violence of forms of violence are domestic violence. Maybe Phil, maybe you have something else to add on.
Oh yes. I think other than it being emotional, we can categorize domestic violence generally SGBV in 5 forms. We have sexual violence, economic violence, emotional or psychological violence, physical violence, and sexual violence. And when all these types and forms of violence are meted against somebody within the confines of the home, then it is referred to as domestic violence. Thank you.
Okay, great.
Guys, what about animals, man? Are domestic animals or pets or something like that? What the hell? Why are we, even pets matter? All lives pets matter, bro. Guys.
Yeah.
Advise me.
I think on this one, Robin needs to give us a way forward in as far as what the discussion today is all about: domestic violence towards human beings or towards the creation, so as it were.
Onyango Otieno was becoming a storyteller. Yeah, but true. So, on a light note, I just happen to have a background in wildlife management, so I understand when you say all lives matter. So like that's a whole other body of conversations that I know we will at some point get entangled into. Wow, I used the word entangled. Yeah, okay. So now, Feni, Feni, are you here with us? Feni, Awiti, Feni, going once, going twice. Yeah. Say hi. Awesome. So I want to like, yeah. Can you hear us?
I can hear you guys.
Hi, Feni.
But at some point, I cannot.
You break up.
Hear you.
Okay. So Feni, this is how I planned this to follow through is I want us to get the definition of the word intimate partner abuse and also the definition of the word femicide. After that, we will have Atieno take us through a few of the comments and a number of questions, and then we will have you give us an account of your life experience. So yes, I'd like to go straight to Sarah. Sarah, you are I've been told by Onyango that you are better placed to give some of these definitions.
Yes.
I'd like to know. I'd like you to tell us what what is the definition of intimate partner abuse?
Sorry, I just missed you. What is the definition of?
Intimate partner abuse. When we say intimate
Okay.
partner abuse, tunasikia domestic violence, and then we hear at another level there's intimate partner abuse, and then we hear at another level there's femicide. So
Yeah.
these two definitions, intimate partner abuse and femicide, help us demystify the two terms.
Sure. So femicide is the intentional killing of women or girls. So, and most of the time, in femicide cases, what happens is that it's usually meted by someone who's very close to you. And in most instances, it's your partner or your father or your brother or your cousin, somebody who's very close to you. So it usually happens because these are people you trust. And in no way you've ever thought that would kill you. Maybe there are those subtle what's the word? The subtle threats that you're given, like West Komodo nitakuua, or when they're beating you, they tell you one day I will finish you. But because you love this person so much, you never believe that it's going to end up like that, like him being the one who's going to kill you. So intimate femicide is something that is trending right now, and it's unfortunately it's becoming a global pandemic. And when when it comes to intimate partner abuse, it's also this is now very close because now it's your partner. This is just the person whom you're romantically involved with, and the kind, and by abuse is either verbal, economic violence, sexual violence. That's basically it. So when it comes to femicide, it's the intentional killing, and it can be done by your partner, either your partner, your father, your brother, your cousin. But when it comes to intimate partner abuse, this is just basically the person whom you really are romantically involved with, and it's about abuse in all the kind of ways we've debunked to it to be. Yeah.
Okay, awesome, great. There's a line from a favorite poet of mine, somebody I follow a lot. It's called Rudy Francisco. He usually says, he said that women have taken a lot of care so that they avoid places where they can be raped by strangers, only for them to be raped by people who they know personally. Yeah. So it starts out as an apology piece, and so I understand a lot of what you're saying. I'd like us to go. We were to have an account of somebody else's experience. Let me see if we can get to Feni.
Robin, can I just add something on femicide, please?
Yes, you can. Yes, you can.
Yes, I just wanted to add that, well, Sarah's put it that it's the killing of women, but it's also the killing of women and girls by men on the account of their gender. Yeah, that's it. So it's the killing of women and girls by men and boys, maybe, on the account of their gender, just by virtue of the fact that they are women, and that's how the society perceives them. And then on intimate partner abuse or violence, I also wanted to add that it is a pattern of coercive behaviors that are perpetrated on someone by somebody they are intimately involved with or was involved with. So sometimes it is somebody that you're currently seeing, or somebody that you are once intimate with or close to at a certain point in time. And these persons may come back now to be abusive, and based on their out of jealousy, out of maybe seeing you as somebody who is more advanced than they are, and therefore they want to do something to you, not to make you not to realize your full potential and to thrive in the society. And most of the time, when you talk about intimate partner violence or abuse, it starts at the individual level where the perpetrator is, and it goes on to the relationship or the interrelationship that they have, the interconnectedness, and then to it's sanctioned by the community because there's that social acceptance, and then obviously to the wider society. Yeah, that's what I wanted to add. Thank you.
Okay, awesome, great.
Oh, sorry.
I don't know.
Sorry. The last one, please.
Yes.
Yes, and anytime that we are talking about violence, kindly, we should remember that violence against anyone, man or woman, boy or girl, a child, an adult, is a crime that should never be justified, rationalized, and ultimately never to be condoned or accepted. Thank you.
And the congregation said a resounding amen.
Amen.
Yeah, so Feni, are we together? Feni, can you hear us? Hello? Okay. We seem to be having a really major issue. So there are a number of things we need to proceed with the next part of this conversation, but I'd like Atieno to take us through a few of the comments and probably pose a question or two. So Atieno, over to you.
Yes, thank you, Robin, for that session. I'm really enjoying and learning a lot. And probably before I go to the comment section, there are some questions that I developed while you guys were talking. Maybe Onyango Otieno, we've talked about violence that happens against men caused by fellow men or fellow women. And on the other hand, violence caused against women could also be by men and women. My question is, how do we talk about violence both against men and against women without putting these genders against each other? Because every time, for example, we start talking about violence against women, the men are gonna come and they're like, yeah, but violence also happens against men. And they think that now that is an equalizer. How do we, to have these conversations without making it look like it's men against women and who gets abused more than the other?
Or do I answer that now?
Yeah.
Okay. From these gender conversations I see every day online, I translate people are in so much pain. People are in so much pain. And that pain comes out in form of the feeling of being misunderstood for most parts. There is something called androcide. Androcide is like the systematic killing of men or boys, yeah? And you find that the way patriarchy is set up, there is a way like it's very harmful to men. But because a lot of times the way us boys are brought up, we are brought up to over-rely on women for emotional labor. When a boy when you're born and it is discovered that you have a penis, my guy, there is a script awaiting you. And this script is sort of, it takes you away from your emotions as a human being, as a boy. And for me, how I translate it is, we are usually being hardened and toughened up for capitalism when our bodies are ripe. Because if you look at how labor has been defined for the longest time, hard jobs have been, set aside for men. And when you're doing those hard jobs, it's almost like you've been dehumanized. You've been taken away from feeling so that you keep doing and doing and doing like a machine. And now, because that has happened, we over-rely on women to process emotions on our behalf, such that we want to put them in their place, and that therefore drives all this amount of violence we see. So for me, I find that because men do not know how to talk about their own pain, they expect women to do it on their behalf. That's why when these discussions start and women are saying, we are tired of femicide, we're tired of sexual violence against women, guys also hijack that conversation. They go like, oh, but also us guys are going through, why don't you talk about it? And the women are asking, but why don't you talk about it? Why don't you talk about your own pain with each other? You know, one of the challenges I've seen is, you see, research says when boys are younger, and the boys here could tell me, we had very close friends, guy friends. We had very close guy friends. Tulikuwa hivi tight. You know, the people we used to play with were boys most times. Tukicheza reso, ama chamagan, ama whatever it was, very passionately. But when we got to our adolescence, then these connections started to fade away. Why? Because with the many changes that were going around us, with the very poor sexual education we achieved, so much attention was given to education around what a girl's body is changing. But for the man, you are left with very little to understand within yourself. At the same time, you are also you are conceptualizing the idea of an adult male at that time of your life, because you want to feel all you're a guy, you're growing up, you need respect and all these things. So what happens is men or boys sort of start competing at this time of their lives. They start competing, and competition brings mistrust, right? So when I'm competing with you to look cool, so that I can be liked by girls, so that I can be also liked by other boys, it means we have to be on the same side of either bullying people or on the same side of defending ourselves against bullies. And most times it's boys running up these things. So that separation that comes during adolescence also is very systematic, because the way patriarchy and capitalism is set up, we are definitely just we are being separated against each other. We are being made to fight against each other. So because men already mistrust one another, they can't talk about emotions to each other. They don't know how to relate on that level. And also because of the way we are brought up to exist outside the home, activities we are doing are technical and they are out there, all these things. And what has been conceptualized or perceived as emotions belong to the home, and that in our minds, the home just belongs to the woman, So we do not know how to relate with our emotions on that level. So it is as a result of so many complex stages of life that affected how men perceive things, that this gender wars show up when people start talking about, so what about men? Why can't you talk about it when a man is killed by a woman or whatever thing? Where are the feminists? But what I challenge guys is, people, we have to invest in healthy male friendships, and that is the difficult part, because we do not know how that looks like in our adulthood. Because of the way we've been brought up, we do not know how to say, when you're meeting at a bar, like a guy would rather buy you beer when you're going through tough things than allow you to express your emotions, and you'd rather go to like a football field and watch sports, which is a good way anyway to release emotions, but anything but talking about what's really going on with you, and again, I wouldn't blame so many of us, because we do not even have the language to express what we feel. So that's why all these things, we expect women to do it on our behalf, and the women are saying, we are tired. We are tired of doing the emotional labor on your behalf. We need you to also come home and humanize yourselves. We need you to start finding a language to express what you're feeling. And right now, like the age that is above us, like people, let's say in their 50s and above, we could also almost say, we may not help them. But this generation, this is the time to actually say, yo, guys, let's just wait a little bit and say, okay, there is a lot of things, so many changes going on in the world right now. And apart from the cultural and socio-political changes, we also have to look at ourselves and say, it's time we also found a way to talk to each other And for me, one of the revolutions that will face patriarchy and face capitalism, it's men saying this patriarchy is harming us, and we want to stop the way we had been taught to look at one another, and we want to humanize each other and start talking. We want to start relating on a healthier way. So I don't know, one of probably the best way to stop these fights when this conversation starts is the men who also have a say on social media, for example, to say we don't have to wait for the women. We can start this on our own.
Yeah, I like that. I won't even comment further. Yeah, men need to talk more, I think. Yeah. Before I ask the next follow-up question, maybe I'll just go through some of the comments. And I see Stella Wanjiru just amening, amen. Robin, perhaps you could show them on the screen. I'm only seeing Stella Wanjiru's comment. Yes, we have Hassan. Okay, we have Oibasim saying awesome conversation. Yeah. We have Tunhood akisema niko ndani. We have Evans Quez saying awesomeness. Jose Ndolo, this conversation is so educative. Yes. Yeah, and perhaps as Robin keeps on showing them on the screen, I saw a question by Tunhood asking, is it true that most rape cases are from people we trust? Perhaps, Sarah, you could answer that for us.
Yes, that's true. While most of the rape cases are from people whom we are familiar with, some are from people who do know you, but you are not aware of them. You know, there are people who stalk you, get to know everything about you, but they're never in your periphery, you know, or in your life, but there are people who have been following up on you. My personal story goes back with my sister, and this is someone who at home where I have a lot of sisters, and most people are unable to differentiate who we are. So we are really alike. Alafu tumefuatana. So this person knew there were 3 men, and they knew each one of us and where we are and what we are doing with our own lives. So you see, this is someone who we didn't know about, but this is someone who actually had taken his time investing in us. So that is true. Sometimes rape is from people who we don't know, but most of the time it's also from people who we love and trust. Not only even people who are romantically involved, even friends, you know, even best friends, male best friends who can do that to you. And uncles and fathers, especially today, we've seen there are a lot of cases where fathers are raping their own daughters, you know, and it's very sad. Brothers and cousins. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you for that, Sarah. And perhaps just a follow-up question, maybe to Phil. When does rape start? You know, because the law defines it as, you know, that's act of penetration. Is that when rape starts? And if so, why does the laws seem to, you know, divide the different kinds of sexual abuse that happens? You know, there's intimate partner abuse, there's marital rape, there's assault. Why not cluster all this?
You know, when we are talking to young girls back in our local grassroots in Muranga, and even young women we mentor and I mentor, you know, you start by really unpacking, you know, what sex is. And sex is not only when your vagina is penetrated, there's also oral sex, and that's also rape, you know. So you see so many women coming out on social media, even in person, telling you that I remember when I was young, I had to give my father a blowjob. You know, that is even for me, that's also rape, because it was non-consensual. This is person who pried on a young woman who didn't, or a girl who didn't know or understand what it is. So for me, I like unpacking sex to the very, small tenets, that sex, this is where it begins, or this is where it begins. So for me, any kind of sex, be it oral or penetration, that is, it's rape for me. And sometimes, this is a personal opinion, I feel like, because of how, patriarchy is systemic. It's in our institutions. You remember that day there was a young woman who was raped outside University of Nairobi, and University of Nairobi gave out a memo saying that if she was within the school vicinity, they blamed her for being outside school vicinity, and that's what we do about victim shaming. I feel like even that's how laws are set out. First of all, a lot of even in our parliament, we have more male representation than women. So they will always have a way of steering conversation to favor them. Like the way Phila said, there was an MP, owning body autonomy of a woman. Women cannot even own their own bodies. Body autonomy is not even about women. So you find them, even the way laws are written, they are skewed towards, favoring the man, such that when everything is brought to book, there's still a loophole a man can escape. So I feel like sometimes, and this is why we encourage and we've lobbied for and having affirmative actions for more women to be in parliament and be able to, make sure that they're sharing these conversations, and if not, they're not sharing, they're part of this conversation, and they ensure that there are some loopholes that women cannot, that men or perpetrators of violence will not be able to escape justice. So I feel like, for example, marital rape is not even criminal. You see, it's not even under Kenyan law. Isn't this patriarchy, systemic patriarchy? This is what I believe. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you, Sarah, for that. I don't know if any of you wanted to add anything. Yeah, go ahead.
Yes, can I? Okay. So, Sarah, you had actually, sorry, Atieno, you had asked about whether or not majority of cases are perpetrated by people who are close to us. And you remember on the 2nd of April this year, just a couple of weeks into the COVID menace, the Chief Justice of Kenya came out and said, out of all the cases, the criminal cases that they are handling, as by that time, from the 13th of March to the 2nd of April, 38.5% of the cases were of sexual and gender-based violence. And most of those were perpetrated or admitted on other people by people they trusted, the guardians, the uncles, the fathers, the people who are very close to them. So based on that alone, we can actually say that, yes, it is true that majority of these cases are admitted by people that you know. And then you post the question that Sarah has answered, and I will just want to add a few tidbits on the same, that the reason why the law actually says that this is sexual abuse, sexual harassment, this is defilement, this is rape, I think it's also important that that happens, because, for instance, look at it this way. If you look at the Sexual Offences Act, a child who is born today or now, to up to the age of 11 years, if somebody is found to have defiled them or sexually abused them, that person is sentenced for life sentence. Yeah. If it is between 12 and 15 years, the minimum sentence for that person who have abused them, if it's proven, is 20 years minimum, but it can also be life. If she's 16 up to 17 and so many days just before they get to 18 years, the minimum sentence is 15 years. And if you look at the way that is set, it is because of the physiological development of a human body. So a child of day one is very different from, for instance, for you in terms of their body structure, the bone structure, the way they are. And therefore, if you were to meet, of course, it is violence against a human being, but look at it, this is a baby and all that. presumably the law takes it that at a certain age, as you grow, then you are able to take up some of these things. In as much as it is violence against you and your body and your space in terms of your body autonomy, like Sarah has put it, I think the law looks into such kind of aspects. Then when it comes to issues of, like, for instance, sexual harassment, which also happens in different forms, majorly 3 forms. It could be verbal, physical, or visual. The law looks at the gravity of some and types of those forms of violence, and that's why you realize that they segregate them into different types of violence. But I think your question about when does rape begin, I think I cannot even dare to expound it how Sarah put it. It's the moment somebody does something of a sexual nature against your will, without your consent, and remember, consent is about informed choice, then at that point in time, if it's of a sexual nature, then obviously it's a violation of your right and of your rights and space, and therefore it should be taken as such. And that's why what we need to do as a society is to educate people more about even the laws that we have, because Kenya has got good laws. Actually, if you ask me, luckily I've been able to participate in a number of them. We don't even need more laws, as it were, because we have Sexual Offences Act, and if we talk about domestic violence, we have Protection Against Domestic Violence Act, which was passed, actually enacted in May 2014. The president put his accent to it, and to date, we still do not have a policy on how it is going to be implemented. That's where the problem lies. You see, we have Victims Protection Act, we are still victim blaming. We have Employment Act, we are still seeing sexual harassment within the workspace. We have Children's Act, we are still seeing children being violated. And I can go on and count all these acts of parliament that we have as a country, plus that constitution, and particularly Article 2, which tells us, which I alluded to much earlier, that if we don't have any particular law, then, and if you are a signatory to an international instrument, it shall become part of our law. So what this says is that we don't lack in terms of legal frameworks as a country. So the thing is, and Otieno Nyango said it very well, that we need to look at the different and come up with the different socialization, and particularly to men, so that we engage men in talking more. If you want to look at the issues of mental health issues and how it affects men, you'll realize that a number of them have attempted suicide and actually gone ahead to commit the suicide. And if comparatively, the figures that have been shown by different studies show that fewer women commit suicide. And majority of men, when they get to the certain stress levels, they don't know how to handle that, because the society tells you, you're a man, man up. So that manning up is the problem. That bit of man up is the problem, because you're manning up to what? You don't even know how to man up in the first place, because nobody tells you. You are a man and you're expected to know. And most of the times, or oftentimes, we do not know. And we need to talk.
I had a question, if before we get in. You know how complex something like marital rape is, and the fact that it is non-existent in our laws. What happens when a woman says, this person violated me and he's my husband? You know, what happens to these people? Because these are realities that are going on every single day. And so many women are being raped by their own husbands. But like you said, Phil, the situation of that MP, it is actually a real belief that so many men have, that, I paid dowry. It meant this woman came to me to serve me. So my wants, my needs, everything, when I want it, I have to get it. And actually, even during these bridal conversations just before marriage, some women are also taught that this is what you do to your husband. Give him when he wants. So it's almost like the conversation around the realities of marital rape it's almost non-existent in our idea of what marriage is, but in reality it is really happening. So what happens even in legal framework? What happens when this happens? What kind of evidence does the law need for someone to prosecute a man who raped his wife? Does such a thing even exist? Have you ever heard of such a thing in the courts? You know, I'm really curious about that.
You know, Onyango, you know, marital rape is not even criminal under the Kenyan law. So I think it cannot even get to court, because so how will you support? Because if the law does not recognize it as criminal, you are on your own. And this is why today women are even having the conversations of then nobody pays my dowry, because if you pay my dowry, you feel like you own my body. So if dowry is out of equation, that means my body autonomy remains. So what women are doing is now we are just swimming on our own, rescuing ourselves, because now we have no anchor. If we can't anchor ourselves on law, when we take our conversation, maybe you call elders, you know, because that's how we solve our family issues. What will elders tell you? The same conversation that it's your husband's right, you should give in to him. And that's why, like you said, that's why you have a podcast that now creates awareness about marital rape. Like, men need to understand, if your wife says no, she has the right to it. So what you are doing right now is just creating awareness about marital rape. And that's far we've gotten. Yeah.
Yes, if I may add, I think the other thing that we need to do, and this is to the women, because the Constitution is like the framework within which our laws are enacted or constructed. We need to have what, Atieno, you refer to in law as a public interest litigation. And we need to try out some of these laws. In as much as marital rape is not in our laws, but our Constitution says that nobody should be violated. If you read Article 27 and even Article 28, which is the shortest article in our Constitution, it states that everybody has the right for their dignity, and that dignity to be respected and not to be violated by anybody. So if we can test that law within the public interest litigation and see, base it on that particular article of the Constitution, we may see some of these issues coming up. Because I think what we are doing right now, in as much as we are saying marital rape is not there, but our law, like the sexual offenses, defines what rape is. So when you're going to prosecute rape, then you can just say, I've been raped. By who? By Phil, who is, so the issue of husband ceases to be. So Phil raped you. That's why it should start, even if he is your husband. Because, and then we also must remember that when you sit in those in the Muslim societies or in the Somali, they call it maslahas, nini. They should never exist when it is of a sexual matter. Sexual offense should never be arbitrarily solved. So when you talk about arbitrary dispute resolution, ADR, in our Constitution under Article 159, Part 4, it clearly says that in the event it is a sexual of a sexual nature, that one watu hawafai kukaa chini ati wazee wanasikizana ati murudiane sijui nini msamehe na mambo kama hayo. So ADR is not allowed for any violence of a sexual nature or any crime that involves sex. So please, these are things that we need to educate our society about, so that they don't sit there when you've been raped, a child has been defiled, munasema ati alete ng'ombe 10, ata alete ng'ombe 20. ADR is not for sexual offenses at all, and we need to educate our society about that. And then also, when these cases, especially of rape, sexual nature, happens in any given society, please remember, hii katiba ambayo tuko nayo kwa sasa sio kama ile ya kitambo ambapo tulikuwa tunangojea eti polisi kama ukiwa umelawitiwa tuseme Kajiado, and then ukuje tuseme unaishi Kajiado, then you go to Kiambu, you are violated in Kiambu, the police in Kiambu will not take action. According to the Constitution right now, the matters of jurisdiction should not play part in technicalities when it comes to prosecution of the law, and that is very clearly stipulated in Article 159 of our Kenyan Constitution. Asante sana.
But Phil,
Thank
if
you.
I can throw in, we see a lot of perhaps what will I call it? There's not a coordination between justice centers and police and social services that make it very hard for rape cases to be, to be prosecuted. And as much as the law is there providing this, it's not a reality on the ground. It's written, but it's not happening. Coordination is so poor. Like you can be raped in and unaendanga kwa police station unakwambia rudi nyumbani. I hope and I wish that implementers can really implement what we are writing, what we have in the frameworks for real. Yes.
Yeah, I think. Sorry, I think what is happening in our situation with regards to implementation and enforcement of the laws is purely based on ignorance on the part of the service providers. And of course, what you've said, the lack of coordination of the different sectors and all that. And I think when we talk about the multi-sectoral approach to these issues, the health sector, the safety and security where the police fall, the legal and the psychosocial support where we all, those of us working in the CSO fall, we need to have a coordinated approach to all this. But by and large, we must educate the masses. Because when people do not know, they are the right holders. They must know what their claim is so that they can claim those rights. And the duty bearers must know that they have an obligation to actually ensure that they implement that which the law prescribes. Asante.
I think the other challenge we might be facing in this, for example, majority of Kenyans live in rural areas. Very few of us live in urban centers. And I often say, even those of us who live in the city, we are like internal immigrants, because our system of thinking is it's old school. But we live in the city, we just tunavaa tu hizi mitumba tumesoma sana, but akili zetu it's still very. So when we think of life outside the cities, a lot of our communities are very communal. Culturally, we are very communal. So when anything happens in the village, the first thing people think is baraza ya wazee. That's the first thing people think through that. It's the elders, wazee wakuja wakae chini. It is whatever matter it is, because it has been the system of governance before we think of the government. And most times in rural areas, uko hivyo, like, unless kitu ni noma sana, ndo tunaenda kwa chiefs, tunaenda kwa police and stuff like that. So this is a very big problem actually, because now a lot of the women who go through these things, most of the time, venye Sarah amesema, ni wazee wanakaa chini, hiyo arbitrary unasema, like people come, wazee discuss nini, au watu sijui walete ng'ombe, sijui wafanye nini. So in fact, even as we talk about it right now, I'm just like, right now we are like almost 50 million Kenyans. I don't know, maybe less than half of that number live in the cities. Uko hivyo nje, where a majority of these cases are happening, it's still the men controlling what's going to happen and what happens mostly, they protect the man most times. So women are still left out in this month. And then unacheki sasa venye tunachambua constitution hapa, even us guys who I could say we are maybe a bit informed, we know a bit of English, hey, somebody's calling me at this time. Even those of us who have information about, we know a bit of English, we have access to the internet, we still do not know we don't understand the constitution that deeply. So how much far worse is it out there? Even when we discuss about this 2010 constitution, the civic education around information, how many Kenyans have information regarding sexual offenses, for example, land ownership, for example, rape, for example? How many types of rape do we even know exist, for example? So the work is really a lot. It is really, really a lot.
True, Onyango.
Yeah.
That's very true.
I love how the conversation is just bouncing among yourselves. Perhaps to just ask a question. Robin, if you can please take us back to the question by Tunhood, which is almost similar to a question which was asked by Spontaneous and I think by someone else as well. And it's on just how to practically help people on the ground who are actually going through these situations. Not that one, but I think the question was there's a guy at Ushago who has children with his daughters, and the problem being that the wife also supports it and says nothing about it. So how can he help that kind of a person? And I think also Spontaneous and someone else asked the same question. How do you support people who are going through gender-based violence and they still stay there? Perhaps they don't even feel like violence is being used against them. Anyone can go.
I'm going to here.
No, sorry. I mean, go.
Okay, I'm going to answer one section, then you can, jump in as well. You know, the saddest thing for me is when women support or when we enable patriarchy. This is a woman who's defending a sexual predator. This man, the father of these daughters, is preying on these young girls' lives, and the woman or the wife is letting him to, is defending him and is protecting him. You know, it's so sad that you can stand by and let your child's life be violated like this. But, you know, also other people bring in the element of economic situation because, you know, with unequal power dynamics or power relations in families, you find that people stay because of, you know, finances. Women don't leave because of finances. And some women don't also leave because of fear. So this woman can be protecting her husband because of fear. You know, maybe this man threatens her. We don't know. Maybe she just does this because she believes in her husband. We don't know. Maybe it's because of the internalized, you know, patriarchy. You believe the man is always right. So we just need to do better. No matter who violates a woman in your life, be it your brother, be it your cousin, be it your father, your husband, because you have people whose husband, you're a wife, you've brought along your sister living with you, and your husband violates your own sister. You know, these things happen. We need to do better. We need to be accountable, and we need to call out. We can no longer afford to protect sexual predators in our society today. And as sexual predators move from our husbands to teachers, to imams, to pastors, to our duty bearers, to our leaders, you know, this used to be our traditional safe spaces, but they no longer are. There are people who pray. Sometimes I even ask myself, were they really safe spaces? Maybe women then could not talk out. Today we are empowered, they're able to speak up. We are finding our voices. Maybe even from the beginning they were never safe. It's just that women kept quiet. So we need to speak up and talk about these things. Report such cases to local area chiefs, or even call 911 or report to the police station, but somehow have a way of defending and protecting your girls. And if it's impossible to do so, if the law has not been able to help, please walk away. Take your kids and walk away. Protect them in the way you can. And for myself, the way I've been able to protect my sister after her rape ordeal, I took her through counseling sessions, and that was before, you know, she had to go to hospital, and you know she received the correct health care, and also I took her for counseling. And you know, the trauma doesn't disappear. My sister couldn't sleep for years, every day, you know, because only one person was killed. The two were able to escape. So she couldn't sleep for years, saying maybe they're going to come for me, you know. So it's a journey. It's traumatic. One doesn't heal today. You work with these people, so you know, emotional support for them. for a while, and any time when they break down, be there for them. So that's my own way of being able to support my sister and being there for her. Yeah.
Thank you. I think Phil has something to say as well.
Yes, I think when we look at the challenges that people who have been violated go through, whether economics, whether it's because of their social surroundings and all that, they can be summed up in four main categories. One is the issue of acceptability. Whether if you say that I've been violated, somebody will say, oh, yeah, that's true. First, they will not believe you. So the issue of acceptability come into play. The other one is accessibility, and accessibility here is in terms of the services that you may need at a certain point in time when you've been violated. The other one is availability, whether or not those services are available wherever you are. And lastly, affordability. Some of them are not affordable in as much as some some of these services need to be provided for free. But like Sarah said, if you are a survivor of any form of sexual violence, the first thing that needs to be done is that you need to speak out. Speak out, reach out, then stand out. In a nutshell, what I'm saying is that the moment you speak, then you are helping another person other than even yourself. Because if you don't speak, you are helping this, you are complicit in a way, in the sense that you're helping this perpetrator to do it to another person. If you are able to speak, whether or not people believe you or not, you are creating a pool of people who you just start creating doubt into people's minds. And why is it that the same person that everybody else is saying is a perpetrator and all that? And perhaps that may help us. So it's a matter of reporting the cases as much as possible. But also, I want to remind Toon, the person who asked this question, Toon Hood, that if you know that somebody has committed a crime and you are very well aware of it and it can be proven, then, and you've not reported you as an individual, then you are a bystander. So what we also need bystander action. Yeah, so that people speak out, not only the survivor to speak about their ordeals, but also the bystanders who are aware and know that certain things are happening in the society can be able to speak out, because our society suffers from the silence. The silence itself kills us more than even what the perpetrator is doing. So don't be a bystander, and if you are, be an active bystander who also talks and speaks out about against the ills that are happening in our society. The survivors need support. The bystanders need to be active, and the perpetrator must be held accountable. So we need accountability from the perpetrator, we need survivor support, and we need bystander action. And lastly, I think it's imperative upon us, all of us, it behoves us to be able to stand with this person rather than pointing and training our lights on the survivor and blaming them. We should hold perpetrators accountable. And we must start from the point where, if you know that there's violence that has happened, to Hood, for instance, if this person has impregnated all his daughters, what have you done as an individual? What have you done as a community of people who are coming together and with this knowledge gone forward to say this in support of these children whose rights have been violated? Because in as much as you have that knowledge and you don't prosecute it, you don't take it forward so that it's reported at the police station and taken all the way to the court system, then it remains a hearsay. And that's not how the law works, unfortunately. So when we know that something has happened, we must also come forward. I am going to say it again and again and again, and I cannot say it enough: bystander action. Because when you see and you say, as long as mimi speaking bibi wangu, as long as mimi I'm not raping people, then I will not even engage in other people's mind. You know, kitambo, I am of those mimi jamaa kitambo, and there used to be this very crazy song ya Kiswahili. Ilikuwa inaimba hivi: bibi na bwana wakigombana nyumbani, huacha wenyewe mpaka wataelewana, lakini ukawaingilia, wakipatana utabaki na nani? Mtoto wa mama. That song was by Lady Isa, and that was back in the days. That should never be now. Now when we see a wife being beaten by the husband, or a husband beating a wife, we must raise a voice. Bystander action. it starts with us. Thank you.
There's one point. There's one more point I needed to raise, please. There's another reality about the silence, especially of women that find it hard to leave their perpetrator's house or homes or in a marriage. And this is the economic imbalance that exists out of women's systematic oppression. In my own instance, my mother found it very difficult to leave her marriage because she wasn't economically stable. And for many more women, it's how will I live? My people may not accept me. I do not want to be a burden to anybody else. I do not have skills to start a business, for example. I do not have a job because the man was a breadwinner. So in all ways, that system of the man being the center of everything makes it very difficult for women to get out of these situations. On the men's side, especially for men who are abused, and these cases are very, very many actually, it is men are silent because they fear being demasculated. They fear like they may feel that they may lose their masculinity. When I talk about, hey, by the way, bibi yangu amenichapa, the first thing people just laugh. You know, it comes out like a joke. Actually, bibi yangu amenichapa. Yani it just comes out like a joke. So people, like a lot of men fear that. So they say, okay, mimi nitavumilia tu hapa. So long as even his closest friends may not even know what's happening to him, you know. So that's why this awareness around breaking the silence, so that we can break this even by standards, you know, can even get more action to mitigate these conversations. Should be set upon.
Thank you so much. I think I would like to take the program back to Robin. Thank you, Tunhood. I hope Tunhood, Stella, Wanjiru, and Spontaneous, you have been answered by standard action. Enigma, karibu.
Thank you so much. That was very insightful. I was here nodding my head despite disappearing momentarily. Those are very interesting insights. I had a number of questions immediately after the conversation, the segment Atieno was handling, but they have literally been answered through and through. I'd like to invite a lady called Jazia. Jazia was here the entire time on the stream, but she was having a few technical hitches. I don't know, Jazia, if you can hear us, say hi.
Hi, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Oh, awesome, we can hear you nice and clearly. So Jazia, you have a background in law, and you are also a creative in a number of fields.
Yes.
So I'd like you to first of all give us your remarks on the number of things that we have been talking about. I'm sure you've been collecting a few opinions and comments that you'd like to share, and also give us a performance if you would.
Okay. So first of all, I just want to address something else said earlier about rape under Sharia law. So actually, rape is not tolerated under Sharia law or the Muslim or Islamic law. In the Quran, it is explicitly said and stated that any forcible, non-consensual sexual act on any woman by a man, irrespective of that woman being the man's wife, a stranger, a friend, it is not going to be tolerated. For as long as the Quran has existed, Sharia law has allowed women who are raped to go to court and to get compensation and justice from the man who's raped her. So the assumption that Muslim and or Sharia law does not do anything for rape victims is incorrect. The Qadi court is very available for women who find themselves in abusive relationships of any kind. There's a big misconception I find being in the legal industry that people who are not in the legal industry have. there's a lot of hearsay that, oh, the law doesn't do this, oh, the law doesn't do that. Definitely, the law is not perfect in every sense, but to completely disregard that the justice system is put in place to provide not just women, but every citizen on this planet, let alone just in Kenya, an opportunity to get justice. I did a paper on whether or not the Kenyan Constitution is provides equality for Kenyan Muslim women, and my thesis came to the conclusion that it does. The Kenyan Constitution, as well as international laws, go above and beyond providing safe spaces for women. And you see this with institutions such as FIDA, the UN Women's Rights Groups, the Kenya Civil Society that's actually attempting to put a bill in place specifically for instances like COVID, where women find themselves in instances of abuse. So we need to also acknowledge that there is something being done, not necessarily on the grander scale, but from a bottom-up approach, such that Kenyan citizens themselves, societies and organizations are coming together in an attempt to find a way to bridge that gap that has existed. Someone also mentioned that ADR doesn't work, which is not true. The European Union has put in place a restorative justice means towards intimate partner violence that has been very successful in 32 European countries. South Africa is currently attempting to use the same model. New Zealand is attempting to use the same model. Canada and Kenya is attempting to do so, but it's going to be a lot slower process because restorative justice isn't a means of justice system that we've implemented as yet in our country. So it's very, as much as we want to focus on the social issue and focus on the morality of the situation, we cannot let our emotions override our ability to rationalize the situation. Because the minute you do that, you say, oh, no system is working. And it's true, no system is working in totality. We cannot sit here and say that there is a perfect system that exists. What we can say is, how do we come in and attempt to find the best system that can work for us? You know what I mean? So there needs to be some talk between policymakers and our civil society members for there to be a middle ground that both industries are focusing on. Otherwise, it's always going to be a contention point of policymakers and people within the legal industry or the executive industry or the legislative industry saying that the civil society doesn't work with us and vice versa.
Wow. Okay. Okay.
So yeah, that was my 2 cents.
That felt like a whole bank. It's not just 2 cents.
Yeah, well, I was listening to the discussions and I was like, hey, I don't want to jump in just yet because I know everyone here is very, very educated in their areas as well. So I wouldn't want to be rude and say no. So yeah.
Okay. Thank you for ironing out all those issues. I feel like the law, as you have said, when you read the law on paper, it has a great understanding, a great exhaustion on the issues we are discussing. However, the follow-up to how these issues are implemented vis-a-vis how it's written in the law, it's almost like two different states. Like there is a country that has the Kenyan constitution, but then there's Kenya where that constitution doesn't technically apply. Yeah, so, and I feel like at some point we might need to have a great deal of conversations on.
But that's not just But that's my point. That's not just Kenya. That's exactly my point. You can't say that it's just here. It happens. It's happening in America right now. It's happening in the UK right now. If we want to talk about legal policies not working, let's not focus on developing countries. Let's focus on developed countries because they brought us these laws. They brought us these papers. They brought us these precedents. Before we had colonization, we had traditional means of dealing with situations. And people cannot sit here and tell me that those did not work If those did not work, if the current situation systems we have don't work, then what do you suggest? That's what I constantly ask people when they're like, oh, the laws don't work, the forces don't work. Okay, cool. What do you, as someone who sees it not working, what are you doing to make it work then? So it's incorrect to say, it just hurts me and offends me a lot when I see people say that, because it means then my entire career is wasted. Then we shouldn't have things like careers in laws or human rights. Human rights is built on the basis of laws. If there were no human rights laws, there would be no human rights. So you cannot sit there as a layman and say these are not working. You're not in court seeing them work. You're not seeing the activists, the legal activists make it work. And if you're not seeing that firsthand, you cannot make a statement saying, oh, it doesn't work. On what basis are you saying that it doesn't work? You know what I mean? I have friends and I have people very close to me who have used the law to get justice from their perpetrators. But that doesn't mean I'm going to come and disregard someone else's experience where the law did not work for them. In that same regard, you cannot disregard the experience that the law worked for someone, or the pieces of paper worked for someone, or the system worked for someone. You have to take all of that into consideration and account. Because at the end of the day, there's so many instances, especially with domestic violence, that exist, not just, again, in our country, but in the world. And even instances that are not being spoken about. And those are done on very different levels. And maybe that individual solved that solution for themselves, but they're not talking about it. So it's just very ignorant to say, oh, this isn't working. Because on what basis is it not? If someone's going to tell me this isn't working, bring me the stats and the facts and everything that says this is not working, and then let's work on it then together. But don't just throw around that statement, because once you start to throw around that statement, it becomes so ingrained in your head and so ingrained in your beliefs that you start to say this is the status quo and you don't want to change it because, oh, that's how it is.
Truth. There's a great deal of misinformation. and sometimes we throw it around. Sometimes we throw it around, and it doesn't help with how a solution should pan out, and the people who are in dire need of the specific solution, because there's a lot of hearsay and a lot of things are lost in translation when we speak specific rhetoric as to be true without doing an in-depth fact check. So thank you so much.
Exactly. Thank you.
Yes, and now it's about time for our performance.
Just a little decompression. Okay, so this is a piece I wrote. I've been in a situation where it was an emotionally abusive situation. So I wrote this once I got out of that situation with that individual. Yeah. Hopelessness, pain, the sadness behind a smile, broken, not beaten, trauma, violence of its own kind. Trying our best, I feed them lies. In trying my best to be kind to myself and to them, who say that I am delusional, but they don't understand. I am trying my best to be kind to you. I know that you love me. I know deep down. I just wish you found a different way to show it. I just wish you knew a better way to show it. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Jazia.
Thank you.
I'm seeing here from the comment section, people have gone hard on the comment section. Desmond says, I love you, Jazz. I resonate with your submission. It's like there's an entire different panel on the comment section, because people are giving questions and answering and sharing their opinions and giving compliments to the discussion. So this is really dope. Right now, I want to tie this conversation down with a few minutes that are left. And if you all remember, we had a very interesting introduction to the conversation. But a member of this conversation who had issues with her connection is joining us right now. I believe the issues have been ironed out, and she's just going to give us a brief account of her experience. Feni.
Yeah.
How are you? Awesome. You can hear us and we can hear you now.
Hear you. I'm so happy. I can now hear you guys.
Awesome. So please tell us your experience, even as we wind down the conversation. Tell us your experience and your thoughts on the entire discussion. Basically, share with us what you feel is important for this discussion, so that it's enriched with a personal experience.
Okay. So first of all, I had part of most of your discussions, and they're so insightful. I'd like to say that I feel like most of our drives are blocked by the fact that we don't know our rights. We don't know that the GBV rights exist in Kenya, and also the laws, and we don't practice more often because we are actually even not aware that they exist. From a personal level, like I introduced myself, apart from being HIV positive and a HIV activist, I've gone through a marriage with in a domestic violence in marriage. It was not as intense, because I realized the moment it was mild that I really need to get out. I remember this man used to twist my arms and my hands when I was pregnant, and I felt like this is not the right way. But then also, when you consult other people, they'd actually tell you that things like, oh, it rains everywhere, oh, this is very normal, oh, that is just a discipline in terms of marriage and everything. So first things first, I feel like we are not empowered as men and women to actually go and fight for our rights, and be aware of what the definition of a true domestic violence. And even in this time of COVID-19, where we now get to interact more with our partners hand in hand, because of course most of us are working from home. So I think awareness needs to be created more and more, and we really need to be self-confident and self-aware, and have a very high self-esteem that this is happening and I'm aware of it, and it doesn't excite me to beat, and I need to put a stop to it by changing maybe my environment. Yeah.
Hello. Feni.
Yeah, can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, great. I'd like to finish up the discussion in the 8 minutes that are remaining. Quickly, I'd go through a number of the comments. We have Bazira Fadima. Bazira Fadima says, hello. This is Bazira Fadima from India. I am joining you for this discussion, an interesting session on a sensitive topic, women and COVID-19. So COVID-19 has been handled as we have been discussing a few of the things we've been discussing here. But I want us to give our final takes on the topic, even as we tie it down, because I know you need to go and do what Onyango Otieno is doing.
I was dying bana. Sasa hii ni watu wanaongea na mimi nakufa njaa ya gani?
It is well. So I want us to answer one question and in a minute each. How do we understand the work we are doing with the current context of COVID-19, how has it made things harder? How has our work been affected? And what different things are we doing now, even with our organizations, that we feel other people who are watching us would need to know, and that you feel people need, like if you have a piece of information based on the current context you're experiencing right now, that you feel other people will really need to get the information that they're already not getting. So very quickly, let's start with you, Sarah.
Actually, I just wanted you to recap again. You were breaking. Sorry.
Okay, 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 okay. So we are living in a time right now where we have Corona and COVID-19 affecting a wide tapestry of our society here in Kenya and around the world. And
Yeah.
so, as people working in the civil society in different levels, this has also affected a great number of our activities. So,
Yeah.
and there have been new developments. I understand there are new hotlines for different things. There are new shelters. There's a couple of things that are meant to help people within this period of time. So I'm throwing the ball to you to tell us of any information such as this that you may know, that our viewers would need to know about, and that probably tell us also how your work is continuing in this period and what things you're developing that you feel people need to know about so that they can benefit.
Okay.
Hiyo swali ni ndefu, but
Okay, so thank you for your question, and I think it's a very critical question. Now, what we are doing is that now we are doing online organizing because now groundwork has been a bit limited because of now the coronavirus. What I would like to highlight is that whatever time we have crisis in the world, whichever country, GBV cases will always spike, be it economic crisis, be it health crisis, GBV cases will always rise. So this calls to government to always have a disaster response intact for GBV response during such crisis. What we are doing and how we are remaining helpful to our community, especially women. We are active people who are sharing information across our platforms, across our networks, on all forms of help that is coming up, of all shelters that are available, and supporting shelters that have coming up in terms of kind and money, so that in case we are people, let's say we are sort of fast responders because we're the people who get phone calls from women who are going through violence wherever they are. So it is our work to coordinate and connect them with available shelters. We are also, like I said earlier, we are also sharing information. So our timelines, our WhatsApp stories, our Instagram stories are always of other organizations, what they are doing, and the numbers people can contact in case they are not able to reach us or they are able to reach the organization directly. That is something else we're doing. And now we're advocating that during this time of COVID-19, we're asking justice centers to continue remaining open and accessible to women and men who are also going through violence. We are asking the government to not divert finances and human resources that are meant for maternal work, that are meant for reproductive health services, to maybe to most of the time all resources are usually diverted to corona or whatever crisis that's happening. We're asking these kind of services and financial and human resources to remain within this tenet, so that women can continue being able to benefit from them. What I've also been advocating for is that as corona cases continue, there are centers or there are tenets that are responsible for, measuring and monitoring what is happening, what is going on, the new trends. Like now we've noticed that GBV cases have risen up. I think the ministry should have seen teen pregnancy will also have come up. And this is a gap that should have been filled a lot earlier. We've seen, but the good thing is that we've seen a lot of people like even Natembea coming out and holding chiefs responsible, saying if girls are pregnant within your locality, it is you who I'm going to hold, to hold responsible for this. So as much as this crisis is going on, let's continue monitoring and looking at the gaps that are coming up so that we are able to, fill the gaps and do what's needed to see this space. And as Dada Power, we are also, collaborating with other organizations in whatever way we can, whatever in kind and in terms of monetary value of people who need our support. And and awareness creation above all. Yes, that's what Dada Power we are doing. And we remain committed to assisting women and girls across the country. Even if you're just in Moranga, hata ukitoka Turkana utupige simu tutakusaidia.
All right. Now, Phil.
Yes, please.
Tell us your final remarks and what you do.
Now, for me, I just want to encourage everybody else to continue doing what you're doing. And for instance, all the things that Sarah shared with us. We are also doing a number of things, but basically online. And I think for me, I'm such a sad person because this online thing for me, I feel like, yes, we are reaching out to people. We are reaching to quite a number of people. And Onyango Tieno said very well that majority of people are in the rural setups. I wonder how many people are even tuned in right now as we speak and are listening to us regarding this topic. So in as much as we are doing this, it's the kind of information that is going out there. I feel that we are very limited, and these are very abnormal times, and we have to live with them. But it's very sad. On the other hand, Robin, if you remember yesterday, we were supposed to touch base regarding like the testing of this whole process, and later on, I told you I had an emergency. Yes. My emergency was actually, this is personal, and I'm not actually doing this to seek any form of sympathy and all that. My brother tested positive yesterday. He's been in the front line of this mass testing because he's a community health volunteer and he's been doing all this over the time. So they were tested 2 days ago and it turned out positive. By the time he got home, he received a text that is positive. And it is like that text message stirred up some emotions and things in his body. All of a sudden, he could not speak, he could not engage, he was breathless. So the wife called me, and I asked her, can I talk to him? I said he's not able to talk. So now I started reaching out to my connections. I started by reaching out to the people that I know so that an ambulance could be sent to pick him and all these manner of things. And I reached out to the senior people around these health issues. I tried calling the hotlines. If you see my Facebook post, you'll realize I even say this 719 thing is not working. Because for instance, for Nairobi, if you do *719# it will give you 6 regions. Nairobi is not one of them. So if you're having a COVID situation in Nairobi, you can't report it via that platform. And I reached out to the county. So all the hotline numbers, even from the Ministry of Health, they were not working. None of them was working. Now, when I reached a very senior person at the Ministry of Health, I was told, now, all the public facilities are full and the private facilities also, they don't take people. I tried reaching out to Red Cross. Red Cross told me, okay, you know what? Today it seems like the cases have just spiked up and therefore our ambulances are in the field and we cannot be able to help you. Now, enough of that. So what I'm trying to say is that these are tough times, and if there's anybody out there who does not believe that COVID is real, it's really happening. And I've even lost 2 friends to COVID. And therefore, this is something that we need to take seriously. And we know that as things, if it continues this way, there will be even a bigger spike in issues of GBV in different communities and different spaces. And we know that right now, in as much as Sarah, we are advocating for resources to be targeted towards GBV response and prevention. We know there's reduced health service availability and access to first responders and all these kind of things in our country, as it were. And we cannot be blind to the fact that these things are happening, and a lot of attention is being paid to the COVID, to issues of COVID as right now. But we like to encourage people to report. Please just try to report. And if you can do that to the different organizations and the different spaces, the numbers that are provided that are working, because I've also realized that a lot of these hotline numbers, some of them are not even working. And we need to do much more in terms of creating awareness and just encouraging people to come out and speak to somebody else. And I remember when I posted that, I feel so helpless, having reached out to so many people, and I was being told that I could not get the ambulance. I received a lot of support from people who are willing to just help me and tell me, oh, so Phil, how can I help you? In as much as I have these connections, but there are still people who are also coming up to tell me, we are willing to support you and all this. So speaking is very good, because it also helps you to get to the services that you may need. So my bottom line is really to encourage people to speak more, talk, because it's only through talking that you can be able to end and curb issues of sexual and gender-based violence from our midst. We all have a role, we all have a part to play in this whole process. Thank you.
Great. Onyango Otieno.
Yes, sir, nimeshiba kidogo sasa.
Okay.
Guys, you woke me up so early and I had not eaten anything. So, two things. I'm running two safe spaces. There is heightened anxiety during this COVID-19 time for the 3-4 months we've been in this thing, and depression caused by anxiety that of the news, and helplessness and the lockdowns and some people losing jobs has been rising. So I run a mental health support group on WhatsApp. We are 200 of us. It's been here for a year now, so we've just been receiving any new cases of people who need support, emotional support of that kind. I really am a believer of communities, just like what has happened to Phil there. It's people around him who are willing to help out, and that's the same model of the WhatsApp support group. So anybody who is in need of people to talk to, and they feel misunderstood around what's going on in their brains, you're way much free to reach out to me. And we could add you to the mental health support group, and you have people to talk to. The other one is I also opened up a safe space for men who have been both raped and sexually abused. Being a rape survivor myself, and I share this story all the time, I found, like, especially this period, there's been very many unreported cases of men's sexual abuse, and also so many men, out of the pressure they're going through right now, are starting to speak out. So nearly every day, and Phil mentioned this earlier, so many men are also sexually abused or violated, but the female rape is very much underreported. Male rape is almost never reported at all. So I opened up this safe space for men who have gone through these situations, and we are just opening up a very specific community for ourselves, for people who are talking about this issue. So for anybody, any man, also aside from the mental health support group, any man who may have gone through or is going through this situation and may need some kind of emotional support around this, feel free to reach out to me as well, and we'll see how to help.
Okay, great. Jazia. Hello. Hi, Jazia. Is Jazia still with us? Okay. So, ladies and gentlemen who are watching us on all these platforms, we thank you so much for your audience and the time that you have spent with us. We thank you for your comments. I'm seeing they're still trickling in. David Kilu is asking, does broken families and poverty lead to this? What about economy? I'm seeing Grace Kisha is saying, I think the society should make emotional intelligence workshops a new normal in churches and schools. Yeah, so these are very interesting insights that we are on the back end taking account of. And I just want to bring this discussion to a close, but I really pray and hope that you take these discussions to your living rooms, to the people that need it the most, so that now we can achieve a snowball and a chain effect, because it doesn't help if we share this information amongst ourselves and it stays there. We really hope that the point of this entire discussion is you get to talk to the people that are within your ecosystems and environments, so that they can begin to also have the conversation. Because once we start talking, then the violence starts being checked. And then once it starts being checked, it's a chain reaction from that point onwards. But it all starts with us having these conversations. So I want to close this right now here, myself, the panelists, and my very able, very talented co-host Atieno. Tomorrow it's going to be all about children and human trafficking. So from human trafficking, child marriages, child trafficking, child protection. Yeah, so that's all we're going to be dealing with tomorrow. The exact same time from 11 a.m. We'll have an interesting and information-packed panel. I'll be here myself and also with Atieno. We will be doing this exact same thing. We pray that and hope that you join in, so that we have an even more candid discussion on the issue of human trafficking and how it affects families and children, especially during this time and the times that have preceded today, and what the future is on the topic and issue. We love you all, but we have to love you and leave you. Yeah, so
Bye.
Atieno,
This abandonment is not pretty at all.
No, that abandonment is good because you are now shibad.
Sasa ndo nataka kupika ugali sasa.
Bye. Thanks, colleagues. Bye. That was awesome.
Bye.
Yeah.
Bye.
Post your Twitter handles on the group.
Yes, please do. Kila mtu apost.
Okay.
Cheers. Go here and prosper.